Supreme Court decided that a road that was proposed to be built through the Vilpattu National Park was not a legal endeavor.
We found out that there were two roads that were constructed within the park.
It's very clear that this road did not exist before the war.
A national park is established for conservation.
Fine, yes, animals are going to die, so what?
Very clear cut said that it was under the control of Navy, so they were not involved in the development.
Hi, welcome to the Sri Lankan Understanding. We are continuing our discussion today with the EFL, the representatives from EFL, about the monumental court order by the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka about the construction of a road through the Vilpattu National Park. Now, we discussed what the submissions were, the scientific fallout of that proposed road, and also some of the legal submissions that were made. We will, as last time, continue to do our best to make it relatable, because we believe that this decision could have an impact in the future as to how Sri Lankan law is construed. Nimshi, Madhava, welcome back. Now, I just want to discuss, now we were discussing about the certain legal submissions that were made. But I also want to bring attention to this alternative road, and what was this road supposed to serve? Like, would it have actually done some good to the public? Because I think that is important. I think people would want to know as to whether we are prioritizing wildlife over humans, for example. But would this road have actually served any purpose?
So actually this road is a connecting road.
What was it connecting?
It is connecting Eluwankulam and Mulikulam.
Okay.
So in between there were...
Anyway, there is a road from Eluwankulam.
There are several roads.
Yeah.
There are alternative roads that which eventually the road will connect Mana. The main connectivity is between Eluwankulam. Through the wildlife park is between Eluwankulam and Mulikulam.
Just, they wanted this connection probably because there were like few added respondents as well to the case who claimed to be they were permanently residents in Mana, and then due to the war they were displaced. And they were saying that this road would make it easier for them to resettle in their original houses. So like it will be easier for them to go to...
construction of an entire road just to resettle.
Yes.
That's
to facilitate
they are
the
referring
resettlement.
to his post-war needs. So
To facilitate the
I'm
resettlement.
just trying to understand, okay, you will construct this entire road because we need to resettle.
And then like the time is shorter is what they're saying, but...
how much was it? Was the
30
time
minutes.
shorter?
It's 30 minutes. The difference is 30 minutes because through a wildlife park you can't speed. The speed limit is 25
So
kilometers
they
per hour.
wanted a difference of 30, they wanted an entire road constructed
Yes.
to shave 30 minutes off.
Yes. And
To go
also
from
as
What would have been the cost of the construction of the road?
that maybe yes, if you're going to tar a road, it is that you have to like
So-
first you have to have the ground also.
No, I'm just trying to
stable ground.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. Trying to say, okay, you're going to shave 30 minutes off, you're probably going to spend several hundred million, and you're going to destroy the wildlife park
Also
to
to
resettle.
Also to add to that, it becomes impassable during rain. So like you can't
so
even
now,
use it
now
well.
6 months of the year, you can't pass it.
Yes.
This is fantastic. This is exactly where tax money is spent on.
And also with the rains, the road will be washed off. Then you have to reconstruct.
And, okay. Right. So, no, I wanted to understand this because people, there is always a sect of people who think that wildlife conservation is not important.
Yes.
Because they believe that their livelihoods, the farms and everything. And I understand it from like a very macro point of view, because you also need your livelihood, right? Like, and we don't have the proper methods of compensating people who lose farm due to wildlife conservation. I understand all that, but it has to be reasonable, right? And it has to be reasonable, and which is why I want to come back to some of the arguments that you have made about this being a matter of implementing the socio-economic rights that are enshrined in the Constitution, and the public accord, the contract between the public and the government, where you basically there is the directives principles of state policy is essentially non-justiciable technically. Right? So now again I want to briefly explain this. The fundamental rights And the rights that are given to you as a people are split into actionable and non-actionable rights. Actionable means you can get relief, non-actionable means you are not going to get any relief, but the government is supposed to follow that in order to give people relief. So that is the guiding principle of what the government is supposed to do. That is called directive principles of state policy. But what is important about this case is this public interest litigation or the protection of the park might generally come under a directive principle of state policy, which is an argument that you made. Can you just...
as you may all know, like there are several fundamental rights guaranteed in a constitution. For example, right to equality, you have a freedom of speech, the freedom of against torture, there are like several such rights. But unfortunately, our constitution does not have an explicitly laid down right to an environment. It is not laid down. So, in order to get there, fortunately, our judiciary and our court system has allowed us to use these directive principles, as you say, the ones that are not enforceable, those directive principles. And also, it's not just the state. There is a directive principle under Article 27, subsection
28, 27 and 28. 27 and 28, yes.
To state that the state should protect the environment.
So, Article 27 says the state shall protect, preserve and improve the environment for the benefit of the community, and Article 28 says protect nature and conserve its riches. So, these are some of the things that the government is supposed to do.
Yes.
But we don't, as the public, have a right to get the government to enforce that. But this is what the court has done in this case.
There are several cases where, as you may know, there are judicial precedents. In the sense, if the Supreme Court allows it once, then generally all the below courts and even the subsequent cases should follow it. So, even though it is not explicitly laid down, these directive principles, and it's not just actually the state, every person under Article 28F, every person has a duty to protect the environment. It's not just the state. So, considering all these articles and directive principles and duties, the court has fortunately recognized and is guaranteeing our right, even though it is not explicitly laid down.
That is something I wanted to come to. We will take a quick break, and when we come back, we want to discuss the overall conservation movement in Sri Lanka. Welcome back to the Sri Lankan Understanding. We are here today at the beautiful Mount Lavinia Hotel with Lady Lavinia looking over me from my left hand shoulder, and we were discussing the effect of this judgment and how the court had in this instance enacted or how do I say enforced some rights that are enshrined in the constitution but not strictly enforceable, but to protect the wildlife conservation movement. And I want to go more into the wildlife conservation movement in Sri Lanka. And I want to ask Madhava. Madhava, we were discussing about biopiracy. And the issues that Sri Lanka conservation, like the conservation movement faces in Sri Lanka. And I do know for a fact that different governments have had different interpretation of what wildlife conservation is, which is rather unfortunate. There should be just one interpretation, that is to protect the wildlife movement. But what that has done, unfortunately, is made Sri Lanka a hub for various nefarious activities with regard to wildlife. Would you like to just briefly explain a little bit more on what is happening with biopiracy and other issues that we are facing in wildlife conservation in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, actually Sri Lanka is a very unique country because we are a very small country, but we do have a vast diversity. That is because we are being a tropical country. We have vast diversity in our ecosystems, in our species, and also the genetic diversity. So it is very important, even though most of the Sri Lankan does not realize that importance, the value of it, but the world has realized it. So that's why the world needs to get these riches on their hand. They want to extract what is within our lands. Right? So that leads to the biopiracy part and also the illegal wildlife trade. So Sri Lanka has now become one of the hubs in the world based on the strategic location of the country as well within the Indian Ocean. And also if you take illegal wildlife trade, it is the 4th largest organized crime in the world. Now Sri Lanka has become a hub of it. So many species are being smuggled out of the country and also smuggled in the country, and also Sri Lanka has become a transboundary hub also.
So biopiracy now, I'm assuming again, now with the advance in technology, now this is probably leading to gene pool extractions and DNA modifications and all that. And that of course has a long-term cataclysmic effect on the biodiversity of Sri Lanka.
Definitely.
And
so removing a certain, sometimes if you need to remove a certain individual animal or a plant from that ecosystem, will affect drastically for the population, because you don't know how much species are there, because we have many critically endangered species in the country. Some are point endemic, some are only found in an exact location in the world. Whole world there is only one location.
Yeah.
So it is critically endangered. So these, every species is important for the to have this equilibrium. The nature is in equilibrium actually.
Now I know you have to be diplomatic about this, but how much help are we getting from the government?
Yeah, the thing is, Sri Lanka, as I mentioned, we have only limited space.
Yes.
There's a constant pressure because of the human population is growing. It's growing very quickly and very fast.
Yeah.
So there's a constant pressure for the lands. So the governments are under pressure by the people.
Yeah, but
for
we also
agriculture
the
and
government owns 70% of the land in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
It is like for a island of this size, for the government to own 70% of the land, it is absurd. Like there is enough and things that you can release and also protect the elephant corridors and the national parks. You don't necessarily have to be in the the elephant corridor to do any of these things.
Yes, that's the issue. That's why I mentioned there's a constant pressure with the people and politicians and all these things. Government officials are trying a lot. They are doing, but still there are issues with some policies and decision making. There are some issues. So that's why that we are intervening in these things. So if the government is doing something wrong, so we will intervene with the powers vested by the constitution. Definitely we will intervene on those things.
Right. Which is really important, because it also brings me to, I don't know if the government and the human beings are not aware of it, but wildlife tourism
Definitely
is a very lucrative tourism sector. Right now, for instance, I've been to Africa a few times. I've traveled to different parts of the world for wildlife tourism, and the leopard. Let's just take the leopard sightings in Africa. People pay up to $3,000, $2,500 a night to see a leopard. They will stay there 5 days. They might see 6 sightings of a leopard. Here, you can do that in one round in 2.5 hours. Right? I've had like sightings, that many sightings. So we have this amazing wildlife product. Right? What is stopping us from exploiting that part of it and actually making it profitable while conserving the wildlife as it is? Because if you don't protect that wildlife, you're not going to profit from it, because the high-end tourists are not going to come to Sri Lanka. What is the issue? What is stopping us?
I think it's the issue is management actually. So we have the resources, but I think we don't know how to utilize it in an environment friendly manner. If you take Yala, look how many jeeps are in it. So it is an issue with the management.
I think they were trying to allow like 600 jeeps.
Yes.
So 600 jeeps, you will have maybe 100 at a sighting. That means, tell the people, when a leopard is there and you have 100 jeeps, what is going through that leopard? What happens to that leopard? Like, I think it's really important that you mention that. What is the mental state of that animal?
Yeah, it's particularly leopards are a very versatile species. They have this very easy to adaptable species for human habitation. That's why they are in our gardens as well. Leopards can, in some areas, leopards are in our home gardens also. But yet, that much of people being there in your habitat, the where you rest and where you feed your field, it is a stress for those animals. Like so many jeeps are around there taking pictures and all these things. Eventually, it will cause some stress. Even though if you take, there are more sensitive animals than leopards in Sri Lanka which have been affected by these matters, but even leopard also feel it. Even though a leopard is a very adaptable species, that one also get that effect.
There's also, now I know in South Africa in private conservancies they habituate animals.
Yeah.
So that is like a effective way of maintaining wildlife tourism, but at the same time making sure there's longevity in what they are doing, right? So they will go, they will spend time, and they ensure that these animals get used to human beings. But even then, there is no sense of overcrowding. There's always a sense of responsibility that is on these hotels and the resorts and the wildlife camps that are running all these. And there's always a way that they would respect the animal.
Definitely.
Right? And in doing so, it's like almost like a symbiotic relationship between. So what I feel in this situation of, I just keep coming back to this, that they wanted to build a road that was going to save 30 minutes, that was going to be underwater for like a good part of the year, and they were insisting on doing this through a wildlife national park. Where is the symbiotic relationship at that point?
The issue is people are thinking like that their mindset is to get the people out of the environment. We are not out of the environment, we are a part of the environment. So people do not think like that. So better way of saying is, rather than wildlife conservation, it should be nature conservation, right? So it's a part of not only the wildlife, the abiotic factors, the water, soil, air, all should be conserved if we need to have a proper life. If the very air we breathe, the very water we drink comes from our natural environment. So we are a country rich with water. Why? Because we have a good part of our country, there is still we can sustain. There are forests there, but still with the population increase, it is diminishing very fast.
Very soon. We're going to come back and discuss our final thoughts on the case and about wildlife conservation in Sri Lanka. So see you soon. Welcome back. We are discussing the monumental Supreme Court judgment order in a fundamental rights application filed by EFL. And so before we round up, I just want to discuss. So we've discussed the submissions, we've discussed the legal principles. What was in the order?
The order, actually, it was Dr. Avanti, the Deputy Solicitor General, who appeared for the state, and Dr. Avanti gave few undertakings on behalf of the Director General of Wildlife Conservation.
Okay.
So it wasn't per se an order, but it was an undertaking that was given by the government, and on that undertaking, because almost all of the relief that we sought were there in the undertaking, the case was terminated.
Okay.
The undertakings, there were three main undertakings. One was that public through traffic, in the sense public, it won't be converted into a commercial road, public through traffic will not be allowed. Second was that entry will only be permitted to armed forces and police for their lawful duties, and any other person will have to follow the provisions of the FFPO. So in the provisions of the FFPO, it clearly states that a permit is required, and even a permit will only be given to study and observe the fauna and flora.
So basically, that is a wild park entry. So that is either from Eliyankulama or the other main entrance from Vilpattu. Those are the only two entry points. That new road is not going to be an entry point for wildlife viewing.
Yes. And then even if there is an entry, that will be as per the provisions of the FFPO. It won't be like, it can't be a commercial road, not general public, buses can't go in, just that how you usually go to a national park.
So does that road connect to the larger road network in Vilpattu?
There were some connecting roads, but I believe I'm not sure whether it's still there, because
so there is absolutely no point in having like a
road that
park
goes
entrance there, because if it doesn't connect, then you're just going up and down, and there's no point.
Yeah, that's also true.
But what is the state of the road now? I mean, it's been 12 years since they did any repairs or whatever.
It was because of the rain. The last time we checked also, it was not possible to be, like, the road wasn't in a usable condition.
So nature has fought back.
Most of the time that happens. Even when we go on site visits, we can't complete the site visit because it's covered with water.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Don't complain.
And then the final undertaking was that they were agreeable to continue the road as a gravel road.
Okay.
So basically it won't be tarred.
It more or less will be a jeep track
Yes.
moving
Definitely,
forward,
yes.
which is what you wanted to do.
Yes.
Nimshi, I want to thank EFL for, and actually also WMPS and the other two petitioners for fighting the good fight, because I think these are things that most people don't want to take up. It's difficult to do. It's time consuming. In this case, 15 years, multiple people would have worked on it. Any notable people that worked on it that deserve our thanks for doing something like this?
Actually, first of all, we would like to thank the council, Mr. Udita Igalheva, President Council, who appeared, who didn't give up for all those years. And also with respect to the EFL staff, there were, I don't know how many teams have changed throughout this
15
time.
years.
Throughout the 15 years, and none of them, all of them did their part at their time. So we would also like actually want to mention Ms. Vardhani Karunaratna as well. She was also, she also played a huge part with the with Mr. Udita Igalheva. So yeah, all the teams of EFL and even other petitioners and the council.
So you're a non-profit organization.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm assuming that getting funding and donations are ways in which you function and do it?
We do get funding, but we do not get funding for cases, and the councils in almost all our cases appear for pro bono.
No, I'm talking about for the functioning of the organization.
Yes, functioning, we do get funds. There are several projects that we do.
Okay, so do you accept donations? If you are interested in what they said, and if you want them to continue to fight the good fight, and if you want to continue to go to Yala, Vilpattu Kumana, donate to EFL, the details of which will appear on your screen. So please do be a part of fighting the good fight. Yes, anyone else?
The board of directors,
Yes.
the present and the past board of directors.
Right. So now, again, this is, for me, it's something that I love. I love going to the jungle. I love spending time in the jungle. And I do believe sincerely that if more people get involved in doing that, that this will become better. But the issue is now it has become an Instagrammable moment.
Yeah.
Right? And it's, yes, but you can't also turn your nose up at the fact that it's an Instagram, it's social media, and I mean, that is indeed giving some kind of limelight, and it is giving the attention that it deserves. But what I also find is that is also bringing in a crowd that is there for the picture and not necessarily for loving wildlife for what it is. How do we go about this? How do we fix this? What do we do moving forward?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. The people, as you correctly mentioned, most of the people now it's like for the fun, right? They don't actually understand the reality of this. They don't respect the nature or the animals in it. So mainly it's like lack of awareness. Mainly, you know, people do not. Even though we aware, people don't want to get it in. Like they don't want to get.
They don't care.
They don't care. They only care about their fun. Their fun and what they want. Their beat. Not respecting the animals or the nature. It is, and also there's a big issue of managing these areas because of this misconduct of the visitors.
Right. I think that concludes our program today. Thank you, Nimshi. Thank you, Madhava, for coming here today. Thank you, the EFL. I think it is really important that we understand that we are part of nature and we are part of this ecosystem. And I mean, even if you just watch the Lankan, it says it's a great circle of life, right? And we are all part of it. We do not exist outside it. And as much as it is the government's responsibility to plan legislation, plan how the lands are divided, protect wildlife, it is also our responsibility to respect the animals when we are there. It is also our responsibility to protect nature. It is also our responsibility to be there and understand that we cannot live in this world without coexisting with what is already in this world. So I hope this has been informative. I hope that you got a sense of what the case was all about and why it's important, and you, more than anything else, you understand why wildlife conservation is important. Thank you and good night.